Hey folks, this is Rob from LearnByTheDrop.com, a place to learn Drupal. And in this lesson, we're going to take a quick look at the Node Queue module. The Node Queue module, which you can find at drupal.org project Node Queue, is a module that allows you to create lists of nodes on your Drupal site that don't necessarily fit into a specific order. For example, you might ordinarily use the views module to create a list of posts ordered by date, for example, or you might even create a list that of a particular taxonomy, and then you could also order that by date or when it was updated. What the Node Queue module allows you to do is just, select different modules on your site, order them exactly the way you like by dragging and dropping, and then once you've done that, you can then use that Node Queue to plug into the Views module to create lists that you could output in slideshows, basically that you could output in any way that you output things with views. And I think one great example of how you might use Node Queue is to create maybe a list of featured posts. So they're not necessarily by a certain author, they're not necessarily a certain taxonomy, but you can create a list of featured posts and you could order them however you want. So let's go over to Learn by the Drop, and I'll just show you quickly a couple things here. If we go to Site Building Modules List and we search for Node Queue, we come down here, we could see that we have Node Queue Generate, and then if we come down further, that we have the core Node Queue modules, which in this case I've got Node Queue enabled. I've also got Smart Queue Taxonomy enabled, and then there's also Node Queue Service. I'm not going to go into those in this particular lesson, but just know that there are more things that you could do with the Node Queue module than just what I'm about to show you here today. So let's take a look at how we would actually create a queue. So the first thing that we do is go over to Content Management, Node Queue, and we could list our node queues that already exist, and I've actually created a queue for premium videos. I'm going to add one here as an example, and the title of this is going to be maybe Featured Posts. We could set a size for the queue, so if we wanted to, we could say, well, I only want to ever have 5 in the featured post. We could, if we want to link to add a node queue in the links section, we can enter that here. And we could also put link removed from queue. I'm just going to make this very simple and not put anything there. Now, what should the node queue apply to? Well, let's say drop, which is the main post on my site, and then we'll click submit. Okay, so now we have our new queue right here. If we click view, we'll see that there are no nodes in this queue. Now, there's a couple different ways that we can add nodes to a queue. If we type, let's see, I need to type something where I know the title, and Adventures in Authentication, so I could just type the title, add node, and save queue. So now we have this, and you see that there's a dragger there, so I can drag it, and of course can't make any changes since that's the only one in the queue. So that's one way that you can add a post to the queue. Now another way is if I go back here to Archives, where I list all my posts, and let's pick Easy Video Embeds with Embedded Media field. And you see now I have this Node Queue tab. So I could just select Node Queue, and then I can select the queue and add it to the queue. So then I can click on my featured posts, and then we can see that reordering. We can reorder that. We can click save. Okay, let's add one more post, and creating short URLs for Twitter. And we're going to add that. And so you see now that we have our 3 posts there, and we can order them the way we like. Okay, so once once you have your node queue, so let's go back to the top level of node queue there. So you see we've got our 2 node queues there. The next thing that you might want to do is, again, you could use views to create a particular way to display that on your site, whether it's a page or a slideshow or a block. And if we go to site building views add, we can just call this featured posts. Post node queue. And the view type is going to be node. And we have to make that with an underscore. I do that all the time. Okay, so when we want to create our view for the queue that we have created, first thing we want to do is define a relationship between that view and the node queue, proper node queue. So we're going to select groups, node queue, create a relationship to a node queue. And then we're going to say require this relationship and also limit it to 1 or more queues, and in this case featured posts. Now, for example, we're going to want to add a field so that you can actually display something. So we'll just add a link to the node title for example. And then we're not going to have a label. We're going to link this field to its node. Update that. And now, of course, you see we already have got the list that we want. As in any particular field, any particular view, you might want to add something, a filter that the node is published, just in case you don't want something that's a draft, for example, node publish yes. Let's save that. Okay, so our node has been saved. So, now you have, if we come down here to preview our defaults, which is all that we have, now that you've got this here, you've got the building blocks for creating different ways of looking at this particular node queue. You could create an RSS feed, you could display it in a table, you could display it in a block, you could display full nodes on a page, you could do anything that you can do with views. And what I recommend is, if you're new to views, that you go over to learnbythedrop.com/CCK and views, and there you can find a bunch of different videos and posts that talk about how to go further with views. But in this case, I just wanted to show you how to get a node queue created and get it to the point where you could start manipulating it with views. So that's all we're going to show on this particular lesson. This has been Rob from LearnByTheDrop.com, a place to learn Drupal. Head over to Learn by the Drop to find lots more great posts on Drupal. The Beginner's Guide to Drupal, which is a free PDF download, and then we also have the Getting Started with Drupal free and premium video series that that will teach you so much more about building a Drupal site. So thanks for watching, and best of luck in all of your Drupal development efforts.